Hi, this is National Master Dan Heisman. This is our continuing series of YouTube videos to help you play chess better. Our last video was a lot like a podcast with a background because we were talking about the important subject of time management. If you didn't see that, I highly suggest it. It's a really important issue in chess. But I thought I'd try to do something entirely different. And I said, well, what's the exact opposite of doing a podcasty kind of video where there's only a fixed background? And the answer is moves all the time. So let's play a game against the computer. The only question I had was, I was in the hospital earlier this week, and the question is, how much is that going to affect my playing strength? So if I make all kinds of terrible moves, well, I've got an excuse this week. All right, let's challenge Betho to a game, see what kind of color I get. Let's see here. We got to go to ICC, match. It's actually not a match, it's just a game. Betho. Okay. There it is. Let's make sure everything lines up so you can see it right. Okay, it gave me white. Well, I usually play the English, but sometimes against the computer I play e4, see what's happening. So let's see, which one should we do today, English or e4? I don't know if I had white in the other videos. I remember I had black, I think, in the last one, but let's play e4. c5 Sicilian. All right, let's go for open Sicilian. See what the computer's got. Knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6 Najdorf. Okay, well, bishop g5 was the line popular in my day. Complicated. The modern one is to play like bishop e3 and f3 and play an English attack. I haven't played many English attacks in my life. Should we do that and see what happens, or should we play a more theoretical bishop g5? That's the question. I don't know. I guess I'm more up for a bishop g5 today. Let's do that. Okay, main book moves. Let's play f4. Knight bd7 line. Okay, so I can allow transpositions into the main line. If I play queen f3, I can try to go for the kind of refutation-y kind of lines with bishop c4. Let's just play it kind of conservative and play queen f3. Okay, queen f3, queen c7. All right, so this is all kind of booky. I don't know this variation of the knight bd7 line very well, but I assume that castles is a really good move. As I always mention in my games, even though these are 45-45 games, I'm going to be playing faster than that time limit because I don't want the video to last like an hour and a half. All right, so here if I play e5 and black plays bishop b7 and I play e takes d6 and he plays bishop f3 and I play d takes c7, he plays bishop takes d1, that's probably not good. If I play e5, he plays bishop b7, I play queen h3 or queen g3. Probably not the number one things to do. If I play bishop d3 and he plays b4, I think I can play knight to d5. So that's interesting. Bishop d3, rook fe1 with the idea of playing in the e5 kind of line. Looks okay. All right, let's play bishop d3. Okay, bishop b7. All right, so if I play rook h to e1, I guess knight d5 becomes a little bit of a threat. I can also play bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, g4 and g5. That's an idea. So my candidate moves are bishop takes f6 and rook h e1. I could also play king to b1. Rook h e1. If he plays b4, I play knight d5, e takes d5, e takes d5 check. If bishop e7, Then I have knight f5. I think we played something like this before, actually. So this is pretty common themes. So rook h e1. If he plays bishop e7, can I play queen to g3? Queen to h3? I could play bishop takes f6 and g4 since there's no rook forks. Well, all right, let's play rook h e1 here. Rook h e1. Queen b6, hitting my knight. Okay, well, I have to save the knight. Knight takes e6, f takes e6, queen h5 check. Doesn't work to knight takes h5. Knight takes b5, or bishop takes b5, a takes b5, knight takes b5, doesn't even hit the queen. So that's not that wonderful. Knight d5 hits the queen. If queen takes d4, knight d5 hitting the queen. If knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d4, I don't have any great discoveries with the bishop, but knight takes d5, e takes d5, e takes d5 is check. So knight takes d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d4. If I can't play d takes e6 because bishop takes f3. So I could just stick my knight back on b3. That's a move. I could play knight de2. I sort of like the idea of playing knight d5, but I don't think it really works here. Knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d4. Can I sack my queen? D takes e6. Bishop takes f3. E takes d7, checkmate. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, it's not checkmate. He has king takes d7. It's double check, but he can take it. So knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d4, d takes e6, bishop takes f3, d takes e7, double check, king takes d7. Oh well. It was a nice flight of fancy, but I don't think I could work all that out in a reasonable amount of time. So knight d5 is I wouldn't be surprised if the computer says it's a move, but I just don't see that I'm getting that to work right here. On the other hand, if I save my knight and then he plays b4, then I will play knight d5 with the idea of e takes d5, e takes d5 check with a big attack. But then without my knight on d4, it's not quite as big an attack. Maybe that's what he's got in mind. Well, what if I play knight f5 now? Knight f5. Oh, he can take, and I can't take. And if I take back check and he plays bishop e7, my queen's attacked, and I don't have time to do a lot. I guess I could play queen to e2. All right, let's look at that. Knight f5, e takes f5, e takes f5 check. He could even play knight e5, although I think then I could just play queen e2. So knight f5, e takes f5, e takes f5 check, bishop e7 or king d8. If bishop e7, queen e2, looks like I might win the piece back. He could play queen d8. Knight f5, e takes f5, e takes f5 check, king d8. If I play queen e2, he can't develop his pieces very well. But I don't really see how I'm going to continue in any kind of wonderful way. What if I play bishop takes f6 first? Does that help? Bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, knight f5, e takes f5, e takes f5 check. He could even play king d7 then. I don't see that really working. I could play queen e3 here with the idea that I get queen discoveries also. That's an idea. Queen e3 is not ridiculous here, but he has like knight g4, and then I'd have to play queen to g1. If I play queen e3 without looking at knight g4, that's hope chess. All right, so queen e3, knight g4, queen g1 looks a little suspicious. This does get my queen out of the line with the bishop. My queen really doesn't belong on g1 though. Fun stuff. All right, well, I guess I should just chicken out and play the chickeny kind of move, knight to b3. He can never play a5 because I can take on b5. All right, all the crazy lines I looked at don't work. Make sure to spend time on knight b3. Knight b3, b4, knight d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, check. Bishop e7. Yeah, my knight can't go to f5 with a good attack, but it's still a good attack. If he plays knight c5, I can always trade it off or ignore it. I can move my queen to h3 or g3 with some kingside play. All right, let's do it. Knight to b3. Not my favorite move, but rook c8. That's actually a logical move. The computer's playing fairly logical here. I think this is probably a good time for me to move my king so that I don't get all kinds of pin things happening once he plays b4 and I move my knight. So I think king b1 is starting to look like a really good idea here. He still can't play a5 because I can take on b5. Yeah, let's play king to b1. Mysterious king move. Bishop e7. Boy, he's stockfish. Betho's playing pretty reasonable this game. All right, so I have a choice between bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, g4, and just play queen g3 right away, or queen h3. Well, queen h3 doesn't work as much without the knight on d4, because I'm not really threatening f5 or knight takes e6 or anything. So I can play g4 right away. He could even play h5 on that. Or I could play bishop takes, knight takes, and then g4. If I play bishop takes and he plays bishop takes, I might be able to play knight d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, check, king to f8. I'm not sure I'm getting enough for my piece in that line. Bishop takes, bishop takes. Is he threatening bishop takes c3? I don't know. I could play g4, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, rook takes c3. Interesting. Or I can just play g4 first. He can play h5. I can always play h3. Or I could, on h5, I could take bishop takes f6. So g4 is a move. Threatening to take on f6 and maybe move up. Well, playing on the king's side in the center is the right idea. My king's castled. So queen to g3 is a candidate, queen to h3 is a candidate, g4 is a candidate, bishop takes f6 is a candidate. f5 is met by like knight e5. That doesn't look good. Can't play e5. My queen's hanging. Just moving my queen to g3 now. Let's play g4. Let's see how that plays. Betho's playing a pretty good game here. h6. All right. So now I'm pretty much forced to take. Although I guess I could play bishop h4 and bishop f2. It's not terrible. Bishop h4, knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. Bishop takes h4. Doesn't look right. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight to d5 with fun stuff happening. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, knight d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, check, king to f8. What's my next move? Knight to e4 maybe? Then he plays bishop takes d5, then knight takes f6, then bishop takes f3, then knight takes d7 check, king moves, knight takes b6. Wow, that's complicated. All right, but do I have any choice? I can't play h4. Now I'm just trying to determine if bishop takes f6 is my only move. Bishop h4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes h4, knight takes d6 check. I might be able to get away with that. I'm not sure I like it though. Bishop h4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes h4, bishop takes b7, bishop takes e1, bishop takes c8. Whoa. Let's count that. Bishop h4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. I'm up a piece. Bishop takes h4, down a pawn. Bishop takes b7, up a piece. Bishop takes e1, down the exchange. Bishop takes c8, up a piece. That's called the running count. I'm doing a running count on all those trades. Bishop h4, knight e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes h4. He's up a pawn, but then I have knight takes d6 check, forking his king and his rook. If he plays king d8 guarding the rook, I have knight takes f7 check. So bishop f4 might be playable, and it might actually be better than if I play bishop h4. Can he play g5 with the idea of f takes g5, knight e5? He certainly can. I've seen that before. Interesting line. Bishop h4 does not look like the right move. Bishop takes f6 looks like the right move. The problem is bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. He's threatening bishop takes c3. The only reasonable place to move that knight is d5. Knight d5. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. Knight d5. E takes d5. E takes d5 check. King to somewhere. Do I have enough attack in that position? I really don't know. But if I play bishop h4, knight e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes h4, knight takes d6 check, king e7. I could play knight f5 check or knight takes c8 check. I think I'm okay. So suppose he castles kingside and I just play bishop f2 and he plays like knight c5. Can I get a big enough attack going with h4 and g5 then? Maybe. It's pretty interesting either way. This is a big critical decision. If this was a tournament game against another strong player, I would really have to think a long time here. Bishop takes f6, knight takes f6. Sorry, bishop takes f6, knight takes f6. I'm fine. I can play h4 and then g5, if nothing else. But bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. Well, then I could play bishop takes b5. And if a takes b5, oh, I still don't have knight takes b5 anymore because I don't have a knight on d4. Yeah. All right, maybe I should just play bishop h4. And if he plays knight e4, I'll play bishop takes e4. If he takes on h4, I'll take on b7. But what if he attacks my bishop with his rook? Bishop h4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. Bishop takes h4, bishop takes b7, rook c7. Now he's attacking my rook on e1 and my bishop on b7. Well, I don't want to lose a whole piece. So knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes h4, bishop takes b7. I'm up a whole piece. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes h4, bishop takes b7. I'm up a piece. Rook c7. Then I just play my bishop back to e4. He plays bishop takes e1, rook takes e1. I'm up a piece. Let me make sure I counted that right. Bishop h4, knight e4, bishop takes e4. Up a piece. Bishop takes h4, not up a piece. Bishop takes b7, up a piece. If rook c7 or rook b8, then bishop e4, bishop takes e1, rook takes e1, and I win 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn, and that's really good here. Okay, all right, let's try it. I have no idea if this is the best move. I assume it's not, but let's try it. Bishop h4. So he just plays queen back to c7. All right, well, now the question is, should I move that bishop and then play g5? What happens if I play g5 right away? Then he plays h takes g, knight e5, and I have to move the queen, and that's a little awkward. I really don't like that. I've been on the black side of those positions many times in the Najdorf. Bishop g3, threatening e5. Bishop g3. I'm not really threatening e5 because he can take my queen. If I play h4 and then g5, h takes g, knight to h5. Interesting, but I don't have to do that unless he castles. I have a big attack if he castles. If he plays e5 here, I can probably take it. So bishop g3 is okay. Bishop f2 is okay. Knight d5 right away. Knight d5 is thematic. E takes d5, e takes d5, pinning the bishop. But my knight's not on d4. Usually your knight's on d4 where you can go to f5 and attack that bishop. And I could put my knight back on d4 because if he plays queen b6, I can play bishop f2. That is not ridiculous to play knight d4 here. Knight d4. If he attacks the knight with the queen, I play bishop f2. If I play knight d4 and he plays knight takes e4, do I still have bishop takes e4? No, because the rook's guarded. So maybe I have to move the bishop anyway. I'm not sure that he doesn't get good discoveries on that bishop on h4, and I want to play h4 anyway. So let's just put the bishop on the same line with his queen. And if I have to, I can always go back to f2 to guard a knight on d4. But the knight really does belong on d4 here. And he's wasted time. I can afford to waste some time. So let's play bishop g3. Okay. b4. Well, here it comes. Knight d5 is the thematic idea in these positions. If he ever plays knight c5 to guard the bishop, I'm going to get a good attack one way or the other. Knight d5. Suppose he doesn't. He plays knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen, bishop takes d5. Can he do that? I bet he can. That's annoying. Knight d5. That's why maybe I have to play bishop takes f6. I don't know. Knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5 doesn't work. Can I play knight a4? Will my knight get trapped on a4? Knight a4, bishop c6. That doesn't look good. Now, if I had my bishop on f2, I could play knight a4, and then I still couldn't go anywhere. All right, so I'm going to have to put the knight back on e2. And then my e-pawn is only guarded twice. It's attacked twice. And then I have to put a knight on d4 to guard that pawn again and then threaten to push a pawn somewhere. All right, so he's pushing me back a little. My c2 pawn is guarded. If I play knight e2, the bishop's guarding c2. If he plays knight to c5, I can just play knight to d4 to guard the pawn with the rook, or I could play knight takes knight, which I probably wouldn't. Then he could play knight takes d3. I could play queen takes d3 to guard the c2 square. I think I'm okay there. Yeah, I have no big advantage here. This is a good game by Beth O. All right, let's play knight e2. I think I have to do that. There's that move, knight c5. Beth O's not playing like her normal terrible self here. All right, so knight takes c5, d takes c5. I can't play bishop c4 because my e-pawn hangs. My e-pawn's hanging right now. If I play knight on 2 to d4, knight takes d3, I could take with a pawn, and if he plays queen c2 check, I can always just play king to a1, threatening rook c1 maybe. Kind of like having my knight on d4 now. I do need my rook to guard my e-pawn. If he plays knight takes b3, I can play a takes b3, no problem. If he plays knight takes d3, I can play c takes d3 and strengthen the center. Queen to c2 check, king to a1. It's one advantage of having that king on b1. I think I need to do something like that. I could also play e5 at some point, but again, I have to move my queen to do that. All right, let's guard my e-pawn with knight on 2 to d4. Knight takes d3. All right. So I can't take with the rook because he plays... Well, the c2 square is covered by the knight, so I even could take with the rook. So my analysis before of pawn takes queen c2 check was wrong. And in fact, after pawn takes, I might even be threatening rook to c1 and getting some pressure there. And I might be threatening to move my queen and play e5. But if I take with the queen on d3, am I threatening e5 right away? e5. It's complicated. Am I threatening something like knight f5? I don't think so. Oh, if I take with the queen, he could probably just play knight takes g4. I think I should take with the pawn, overprotect e4, and maybe even play rook c1 and knock his queen out of there. I don't see anything wrong with that. All right, let's take it with the pawn. That frees up my pieces. All right, so he does move his queen out already. Okay, so my idea here is to play like h4 and g5, especially if he's going to castle. Or I could even play h4 and h5. If I play h4, he could play h5 right away, and if I play g5, he could play knight g4, I guess. I'm not too worried about that. At some point, I got to move my queen. But if I move my queen, I have to guard the g4 square. The best way to guard g4 is probably just to push that pawn to g5 at some point. If I push to g5 and he takes and I take, I might even be able to play rook h1 and go after his king. Oh. Can't play e5 till I move the queen. The only place I can move the queen and guard the g-pawn is queen e2. Queen e2 doesn't look all that wonderful. Queen e2 threatening e5. Am I threatening e5? I don't even know if I am. Well, h4 and then g5 looks like an idea. Let's see. If I play h4 and he plays e5, hitting my g-pawn twice, I can play knight f5. And if he plays g6, if worse comes to worse, I can play knight takes e7. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's a problem. All right, let's play h4. And he breaks with d5. All right, so if I play e5, where does this knight go? h7, g8. Those are pretty terrible places. Then I can follow up with f5 and open things up around his king. So that does look promising. If I take on d5, he takes with the knight or the bishop, and that opens up his pieces. That doesn't look right. I'm not playing e5 to gain space. I'm playing e5 to play against his pieces. I want to open those lines for my rook. e5 followed by f5 looks pretty good. He doesn't have any bishop g5 checks. He's threatening d takes e4 in some lines. Probably I'm okay. That's probably not a big threat. But if I just play g5 right away, he could play h takes g5, h takes g5, like knight h5 or something, hitting my bishop. I don't like that as much. I'd rather drive that knight away first and then go after stuff like that. Okay, let's play e5. Knight back. Okay, so where's that knight going? The only safe square right now is f8. If I play f5, am I threatening f6? f5, he doesn't do anything. f6, g takes f, g takes f, he takes with a knight. Doesn't look like it. Am I threatening to take on e6? Not sure. Maybe I could play rook f1 first, f5, and then he does something, and then I play rook f1, and I'm threatening pawn takes, queen f7 check, so he has to play like rook f8. Can I play f6 then? I don't know. Now I could play g5 and try to keep the knight out of the game. I don't think that's the right move. f5 certainly keeps the pressure on. All right, let's play f5 on general principles, and it's already been longer than he's already lasted long. Wow, look at that, he castled. Whoa. Okay, now we've got some fun stuff brewing. So if I play f6 and he takes, what can I do to him? If I play g5, he can take. Okay, f6, g takes f6 is almost forced. Does that help me? Can I play g5? Then he takes on g5, and I think he's okay. Can I play bishop f4 here? And then play f6, and if g takes f6, can play bishop takes h6? I think so. But if I play bishop f4 right away, he has bishop takes h4. f6, g takes f6, then bishop f4. That doesn't look right. Can I play like queen e3 first? And then f6 with the eye of g takes f6, queen takes h6. That looks pretty reasonable. If he plays e takes f5, I have g takes f5. That looks reasonable. Keep the pawn on h4 to keep the knight out of the game. So queen e3, if he plays bishop c5, I'm not worried. I can even always play knight takes c5. My knight on d4 is pretty good. Now he's going to play a5, a4. Queen e3 overprotects the knight on d4. f6, threatening. G takes f6, queen takes h6 with some play. I kind of like that. All right, let's do that. Queen to e3. Pawn takes. All right, well, that frees me up a little bit. Taking with the knight looks wrong. He could play d4. He could get his pieces in the game. I think I should take with the pawn. And then I could always play rook to g1. Or I can play moves like e6. The knight on h7 is pretty weak. His center is getting weaker. All right, g takes has got to be right, I think. Okay. Rook e8, putting the rook on the same line with the queen. All right. Can I play rook g1? Rook g1, bishop d6. He's not really threatening anything. Rook g1, he'd have to really play something like king h8. I really want to, in this position, I want to have my rooks on either both on the g file or on the e file and the g file. So the rook on d1 is misplaced. If I play e6 here, I don't think I'm in good position to do that with his rook pin. Suppose I play e6. e6, if pawn takes, then pawn takes, and his knight and his bishop get much, much better. Is his queen trapped? No, of course not. He could play queen to a4 if he has to. All right, so e6, pawn takes. Pawn takes. He could also play queen d8. If I take with the queen and trade queens, that's disastrous here. e6 doesn't look right. Rook g1. The e-pawn is overprotected. If he plays f6, then I can play e6. Rook g1, king h8. I might even be threatening bishop f4 and bishop takes h6. Or I'm threatening g6, f6, g takes f6. Well, if his king's on h8, he could play bishop takes f6 or anything takes f6. So I'd have to move the queen again. But I can do that. In this position, I have time. I think I do want to play rook to g1. Let's do it. Rook g1. There's that queen a4. All right, but that means he can't play a5, a4, and he can't play rook c5, rook a4, queen takes a2, so I don't think he's threatening too much here. I think I now have time to start to play on the king side. So I can't play f6 because he just takes it, but I could move the queen to threaten f6, and that would be tough on him. Queen f4, or queen somewhere, and then I'm threatening, yeah, queen f4, I'm threatening f6. If pawn takes pawn, queen takes h6, bishop f8. I think I'm getting a big attack there. It's complicated. If I play bishop f4 here and he plays bishop h4 and I play bishop h6, he could just play bishop f6. And bishop takes g7. Oh, it's really crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Bishop f4, bishop h4, bishop h6, bishop f6, bishop g7, bishop takes g7, queen to g3, and he can't guard f7. That's pretty good. Bishop f4. If bishop f6 right away, I could play rook d e1, threatening bishop h6. That doesn't look pretty bad at all. Bishop f4, bishop h4, bishop takes h6, bishop f6. If he plays g6, I just take it. If he plays g5, I can take it en passant. Bishop f4, bishop h4. So let's say I play bishop f4 and he plays king h8. Bishop takes h6, g takes h6, queen takes h6, bishop f8. Do I have anything there? Bishop f4, king h8. Bishop f4, king h8, bishop h6, g takes h6, queen takes h6. He could play rook g8 or bishop f8. I don't think that's right yet. f6, he can just play bishop takes f6. That doesn't help me. So do I want to move the queen first? I guess if I play queen f4, I'm not only getting my queen out of the pin so he can't put a piece on f6, but I'm also guarding h4, but then I don't have to move the bishop, but I could move the bishop to other places. Queen f4, what's he going to do? I'm threatening maybe even bishop f2 and queen takes h6, threatening mate. I guess he can always play king h8, but then I play f6. And if he plays g takes f6, I have queen h6. That's the point. If he plays g5, I can take, well, I guess that's complicated, but queen f4 is interesting. All right, well, this is a long video. Let's do it. Queen f4. Get out of the pin. Bishop back. Okay. So if I play f6, g takes f6, queen h6, threatening to move the bishop. f6, g5, pawn takes, knight takes, then I move the bishop. f6, f6, g takes f6, queen takes h6. If f takes e5, then bishop takes e5, check. See, he can't play bishop f8 anymore. f6, I'm threatening to take on g7 and then open him up. I think I'm okay. And f6 also lets my knight get to f5. Wow. That's a lot of stuff. All right, a lot of stuff. Let's try it. f6. Knight takes f6. He's just giving me the piece. Okay. Well, I think I should take it. If he takes with the bishop, I can move my bishop and threaten queen takes f6. Do I have any other moves? Queen takes f6. Doesn't look like it works. Okay, I think I'm okay. Let's take it. Okay, bishop f6. All right. If I play bishop h2, I'm threatening queen takes f6. Could also threaten knight f5 in some lines. Knight f5 right away isn't bad. Knight f5, can he mate me on b2 with bishop takes b2 or something? It doesn't look like it. Knight f5 looks pretty good. So does bishop h2. Bishop h2 threatens queen takes f6. If he moves the king, I can play knight f5. If he plays bishop e5, I could just play knight f5 right away. Knight f5, bishop e5, knight takes h6 check, g takes h6. Complicated. Queen takes h6 right away. No, that doesn't work. Knight f5. Knight f5, bishop e5. I can just move my queen to like g4 and threaten bishop takes e5 and mate on g7. Knight f5, powerful place for the knight to be. If he plays rook e2, threatening rook takes b2 check, what do I do? Knight f5, rook to e2. I guess that's a move. Knight f5, rook e2, knight takes h6 check. If g takes h6, then queen takes f6, guards b2. If he moves the king, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the right move order. Maybe I should just play bishop f2 first and threaten queen takes f6. If he plays bishop e5, I can play queen takes h6. So we'd have to like move the king. So bishop f2 and he moves the king. What do I do then? I'm up a piece. I could just play rook e1 and trade everything off. Just win the game. Knight f5 looks like the right idea, but rook e2 does give him a fair amount of play. Queen takes f6, g takes f6 does not work. If I play bishop f2 and I play knight f5 and he plays rook e2, I can play bishop to d4 and neutralize the diagonal. That's not bad. All right, let's just do that. Bishop f2. He moves the king. Okay, so now I have all kinds of pleasant choices. What if I check first on d6? Queen d6 check, bishop e7. No, but I could play knight f5 first, threatening queen checks. That looks pretty good. And again, if he plays rook e2, I can always play bishop d4. Knight f5, bishop takes b2, king takes b2, rook e2 check. I think I can play rook to... Well, he has queen a3 check on that. Knight f5, bishop takes b2. Then I guess I could just play queen d6 check, king g8, and then like knight takes g8, bishop takes g8, queen takes h6 or something. That looks pretty good. I'm not too worried here. Knight f5, let's do it. Queen there, not even threatening queen d3 check. So now I have a family fork on d6. Could he pin my queen? If I play knight d6, he can play bishop e5. That doesn't look very good for him. Queen d6 check looks good. looks winning. If he puts the rook in the way, it's pinned. If he puts the bishop in the way, then knight takes bishop. If he plays king to g8, then queen takes f6. If he puts the bishop away, knight takes, then rook takes. Then I could play bishop c5, for instance. Yeah, all right, let's play queen checks here. Queen d6 check. Bishop e7. That's a very important dark squared bishop. All right, I think I should take that bishop off the board. Let's do it. Knight takes e7. Rook takes e7, and now bishop c5 should end the game. He doesn't have queen d3 check. That's important. Rook takes c5. I can just play queen takes c5, and I'm up a whole rook, threatening to trade queens. All right, video's gone long enough. Let's go bishop c5. Bishop c5. Rook takes c5. I could take either way. I guess queen takes as fast as, I could play the whole game pretty fast after that. Sure, let's just take with the queen. Queen takes c5. Queen takes, knight takes. I'm up a rook in the endgame. I know how to win this. Bishop back, offer the trade of rooks. All right, do I lose my h-pawn if I trade rooks? Not really. No. Okay, rook he1. g6, when winning trade, rook takes. Okay, get my rook on the open file. Guard my knight with a pawn that can't be attacked by the bishop. Get my king into the middle on the opposite color of his bishops. All right, penetrate with the rook. Rook checks. King back, get my king up again. I could win the pawns with my rook, but my king will stop them much better. King up. Pawn up. Doesn't really much matter. I'll take it. Okay, let's bring my king over to stop the pawns. They're not going anywhere. Are you, Mr. Pawns? All right. Well, let's see here. I have so many ways to win this game. I could just take off the d pawn first. Doesn't matter. If I pin the bishop, does that do anything? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. All right. Let's just win the d pawn, I guess. Rook to e5. It doesn't matter. He takes there. Take the pawn. Just trying to make it a little easier here. Okay, the bishop is kind of trapped. Let's hit the bishop. He goes back. Now I can start attacking the pawns. Let's just play knight to e6. Pawn up. All right, I can blockade the pawns with my king. He's getting towards Zugzwang here. Do I want to take the bishop now? I can just push the pawn, and if he takes, I get a pass pawn. d5, guard the knight. He goes there. Thank you for the free pawns. He's going to give away all his pawns now. There's no stalemate. Okay, king back up. Thank you for the pawn. King in. King in. King in. Thank you for your pawns. Now he's in Zugzwang. Rook checks. I know this mating pattern. Rook h8. He has to play king a6. And rook a8 checkmate. All right, video's gone long enough. See you next time. Hope you enjoyed the game. Good game. Bye.